This meeting is being recorded.
All right. Welcome, Shannon, and welcome, James.
Hello.
Hello, hello. All right, I'm going to share my screen here with you. All right, you guys can hear me just fine? Screen should say 12, or it should say asking the right question or staying curious as a coach, 12.5, leadership equipping, green background.
I just see a black screen.
Interesting.
There.
See you now? Boom. All right. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. All right, guys. This is sort of a continuation, and I'm aware of the time. It's 1:12. Wait for some late arrivals. No big deal. We'll still try to keep it in that hour window. Try not to talk too quick here, but this call is as much for you as it is for me from a development standpoint, and really just want to get to the heart of it. So this is call, I believe, 14, which is kind of crazy to think about. We started these, I think, back in the spring. And this one's entitled Staying Curious as a Coach. It's literally going to be sort of a part 2 of what we were covering 2 weeks ago. My hope is that's kind of stuck with those that were on the call. You were able to kind of bring into the everyday shift in, shift out coaching for your team. And so we'll talk a little bit further about that today. So as far as breaking the ice goes, when do you begin the holidays in your home? And do you have, I mean, for many, I'm sure you celebrate Christmas. Some may not. That's fine. But the reality is December's full of all sorts of holiday action. When do you begin the holidays in your home? Feel free to add to the chat, unmute yourself as well. Love hearing from some of you. But when do you begin the holidays in your home? Think Christmas tree, lights outside, or if you celebrate something else, maybe there's certain things you do to begin the holidays. When do you start getting into the spirit of the holidays?
To be honest, most of the time I just wake up and the tree's there. I don't know. So
Fair enough. Who's the one putting up the tree?
December the 1st for me, Lance. Hard December.
Hard December. There's a method to your madness. No November.
I love it. I can't wait to get the tree up, but it can't be November. It's got to be December. Got to be.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I like it.
My mom and dad will literally put up all the decorations throughout the house the weekend after Thanksgiving. Dad does all the lights. My mom does all the decorations on the inside.
Awesome. Awesome. You even know who does what. Like Cody, he just wakes up and there's a tree. Santa brought him a tree.
it's just there. It's just there. I don't know.
It's just there magically. Teleports. And I love December 1st. Like James is all over it. He's like, he knows exactly what day. Yeah, that's awesome. Good deal. Anyone else out there?
As soon as the kids and I all have a time where there's no homework, there's nothing, we get everything together and start putting it up.
So where you can fit it in, right?
Yep, that's when holidays start in my house.
Nice, nice. Context of your life matters, right? Kids and all the other responsibilities and such. And okay, awesome, very good. Anyone else? I can say we did it right before Thanksgiving. We host Thanksgiving at our place, and so we had the Christmas tree up, and that's kind of become a staple. So it's not like a hard day. It's just sort of like we have a moment to say, hey, let's do it right before Thanksgiving. We're having family and friends over. No one else will get to see the tree otherwise because we don't do Christmas at our place necessarily. I mean, we do. The kids open gifts and stuff in the morning, but as far as others seeing it, you know, they'll get to see it through Thanksgiving if we have the tree up. In 2020, coming out of that, I think we started it earlier. I think that was kind of for a lot of people. It was like, got to get that Christmas season going a little earlier. We did. I know it was like probably in October. We were like, we're just going to like live Christmas because we needed a little bit of that elevation, I guess, of our just where we were. You know, 2020 was a rough year for everybody. So we were like, oh, we're going to go Christmas early. I had my lights up even earlier because I love the Christmas season. So, yeah. Anyone else? Awesome. Add to the chat if you haven't already. Always good when people get to see what you do on your end. Awesome. Thank you, Tyler. Appreciate that. It's nothing special per se, except for you get invited to Thanksgiving dinners, but you choose not to do that. So guys sitting at home eating Pringles. Feel free to unmute and defend yourself. You don't have to. It was
Settle
Doritos,
this over
Lane.
cornhole.
It was Doritos. It wasn't Pringles. Fair enough.
Doritos and dip, actually.
To each their own. See, I knew something was going on. It wasn't Pringles. All right. Well, excellent. Thank you, guys. And let's keep the conversation alive. This works best when everyone's kind of conversing and adding their portion to this call. So moving on, you guys have heard me say it many times. The vision is what it is from a leadership standpoint. What are we trying to cultivate? We need to be intentional with this. Every call builds on another call, right? But that doesn't mean if you go back to call 2 on the YouTube channel where we have everything sort of documented, the library, so to speak, doesn't mean you have to, watch the first one before the second one, right? I believe they intertwine, they work, and there is a measure of building that happens, but we are building towards something. It looks like something. At the end of the day, we are trying to grow in conflict resolution, coaching skills, but so many other things too, right? Building teams that last and there's longevity. And really, at the end of the day, we open our doors to make money and be that much better than our competitors. And so the hope is that this is all funneling up into really stewarding something where our teams are that much more effective at running safe, clean, and fun parks. That's the teams that you're over. And that equates to additional dollars coming through our doors. People saying, hey, I want to come to a Slick City. I want to come to a Sky Zone. And that there's longevity in that. So really the mission is how we get there. We've talked about that before too. What are some things you need to do on your end to continue working those muscles so that we can get stronger in this area and really just have a higher level of leadership within all of our park systems. So beyond that, just a little bit, well, before we get into the nitty gritty here, love this quote from John Wooden. A good coach can change a game. A great coach can change a life. And there's a lot that goes with your influence, the words you say, how you say it. Sometimes you don't even know the impact your words have on another person until maybe after the fact. And that could be good or bad. But again, a good coach can change a game. A great coach can change a life. And so a little bit of a review. Last time we were together, and again, for those that weren't on the call, you can go back to the library on YouTube and watch said call. For the record, it runs the whole hour that we're together. I would recommend getting on those and watching them because the conversations, there's as much in the conversation as there is in the teaching piece. I have thought about maybe doing just the PowerPoint kind of narrating that. So it'd be maybe 10 minutes versus the hour long and make it more of a training module where you can interact with that, especially if you're strapped for time. Because the content, I believe, is good content, but the conversation, I think, is paramount to that. So please go back and watch that, listen to it if you haven't already. But the review of it real quick, we went about coaching as questioning, talking about, strengthening our coaching game as leaders. And then we talked about the dreaded advice monster, if you guys recall that. That'll come up again here shortly. And then as leaders, we must coach. It's just part of the game. It's one of many leadership styles and approaches, but it's one that's often not utilized to the degree in which it could be, and it's extremely beneficial for our teams. And so really that's the review in a nutshell, and we're going to continue off of that. But before we do, you guys had some homework, and it was the worksheet, but I just want to center on one thing, and that is, did you coach? And if so, you had mentioned 2 people at the very least. Who did you coach? How did it go? Let's talk through that a little bit. Your time to share.
I'll start.
Yeah, go for it, man. Kill it.
One was on courts and one was on cash. The courts, I was up there dealing with an injury and I was about to come back down after the kid was okay. But I noticed one of my court monitors just kind of sitting in the well, you know what the park looks like on top of performance with his arms folded.
Yeah.
Kind of just like not interacting, not doing anything. So, I went up there and I said, hey, you seem kind of bored, I mean, you don't have to just stand here, they were like, he was like, I thought I just had to like, kind of stand here. He was like, cause he's relatively new. I mean, I think it's like a third or fourth shift. And I was like, no, you don't have to stand there. You can walk around on the pads, interact with kids, give them high five and stuff. And, and then, so he started doing that. And then I went up there about an hour later and, I mean, he was still up there high fiving, talking to kids, talking to parents and everything. So, I think he just thought he had to stand there and just look grouchy and watch kids. And then the second one was on Cash. I mean, it was a small one. She didn't know how to use the one of our cashiers didn't know how to. She sold a membership, but she didn't know how to use the tablet to get to the membership and do the agreement and everything. So I just taught her how to do that.
Awesome. Very good. Small or not, makes a difference for sure. Thank you for sharing and thank you for being bold and going first. Appreciate that. Who else? Anybody else? Homework, right? What 2 people did you intentionally coach the past 2 weeks? And you can put it in the chat too. If that's easier, you want to type it out, totally fine.
I can give a quick example, Lance. It's only 1 as opposed to 2. But a common problem that we experience is that, because we use a different system, which is called Activate. So it has, when you get to processing a transaction, the default tender type selects credit card versus cash. So you get a lot of people who in their rush and the pressure of having a line, they select credit card and then put in the amount and then process. They select cash when it's supposed to be credit card. So then in turn, what we're doing here is we're telling the cash register and the processing system that we're putting money into the draw when we're actually not. And then come the end of the day, our draws and our totals are all thrown off. So we've been spending a lot of time coaching people on really what it comes down to is that the mistake they're making is not a big mistake, and that it's actually okay and is helpful and beneficial for everyone to kind of come on and just like put your hand up and say, hey, I did this. Can you help me fix it? It causes a lot of problems come the end of day, then come the end of month when people don't catch it in time. So we spend a lot of time coaching on admitting to mistakes, I think is really what it comes down to.
Awesome. And glad to have you on the call, by the way. I believe you're on the last call, right?
I tried. I sat here for a good 10 minutes and I didn't seem to get in, but I think there was some, I had like a Microsoft Teams link rather than a Zoom link. So I don't know what happened, but here we are. Here we are.
Now, I remember seeing your name pop up at some point. It could entirely have been on my end too. I was hosting the call while trying to lead the call and everything else. So, and Zoom can be a little funky, but I recall your name popping up. But either way, glad to have you on the call. Really appreciate it.
Thanks. Good to be here.
All right. Anyone else on the shares here? You'll have plenty of time to share later in the call too, but jump on it if you want to right now. And if not, no worries. We'll keep trucking along. Feel free to add in the chat too if you want. If something comes to mind throughout the duration of the call, that would be fine too. All right. So moving on, guys. And again, this is all centered on coaching, so we'll have plenty of time to discuss further. Really, for each of us here, this quote, I think, lands, at least it does with me. The best leaders are readers of people. They have the intuitive ability to understand others by discerning how they feel and recognizing what they sense. It's a big deal. It's getting to know your people. And so part of this coaching with a measure of questioning involved is about getting to know your people. It's really trying to unpack what's going on inside them. At the end of the day, they're not automatons. This is not an assembly line, nor do we want it to be. We are a people-based business. We're at our best when we are focused on the fact that we are a people-based business, both on the guest end and on the team end. And true to form, the guest experience will never surpass the team member experience. And so we need to continue to steward something within our team and grow from within in all the right ways. And so we need to know our people. That's really important. So we talked about this last time, just a little review, just the same, excuse me, at least 6 different leadership approaches. And then we're going to focus on coaching. So this is the second half of what was dubbed the coaching habit. Rarely do I actually reference a book. I do pull from different books, YouTube videos, things like that. But this one kind of landed before me, and I thought, man, this is really solid. I strongly recommend it. And essentially, we're going over portions of it, and then I'm kind of adding some things that are really more in tune with Innovative Heights, right? To kind of land the context for which we kind of live and lead in, right? Here at Innovative Heights. But again, coaching habit is really sort of what we're focusing on, both on this call and the last call. And so that's really where we're heading. So again, review, coaching should be short, simple, and intensely practical. Coaching needs not to be drawn out. Avoid advice giving by staying curious and remaining cognizant of where the person is mentally, emotionally, and relationally to you. Ultimately, don't be this guy, right? The guy yelling from the sidelines. We've all seen that. We've all been around that. Don't be that guy. That's not what we're looking forward to doing. Also, questions should be short, simple, and intensely practical, just like coaching. So you read it once, you'll read it twice. It's the same thing. It's not invasive. It's not designed to trap anyone or make them feel uncomfortable. You're not trying to force an answer. Questions are about discovery, about staying curious longer. So it's not this guy down here. This guy is kind of creeping around. He's prying into people's business, it looks like. That's not what we're trying to do. So I'm going to ask this question. I asked it last time, and maybe it's morphed and changed over the last 2 weeks, or maybe it's the same challenge. But we'd love to hear from at least one of you about what is your biggest challenge to coaching. I know there's a measure of vulnerability when you're sharing amongst your peers, and even for some that maybe work directly for you, if there's a GM and an assistant manager on the call here, right? But what is your biggest challenge to coaching? Just lay it out there. What's the biggest challenge right now?
I think for Milwaukee, it's simply getting people to listen to you, and following up with them and making sure that what you're coaching is being, with that they're executing it even after you walk away. I think that's the biggest thing for us.
It's good. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if there's any wrong answer. I think, are they listening? Is this worthwhile? Am I, my investment, my time investment is my time, that sort of thing, right? The speed in which our business moves. I think there's a number of challenges that we come up against. I'm gonna sew into them. We're gonna do all this, and then they're gonna be gone. They're not even gonna show up to their shift tomorrow, right? It's a lost cause. That can be something we flirt with from just from a thought structure. There's that thought, like, what am I doing here? Why am I doing it? Absolutely. Kind of that old adage, what if we train them so well that they get really good and they leave? Well, what if we don't and they stay, right? So there's something about we need to continue to work with our people and grow them and coach them. Thank you for going, by the way, Tyler. I appreciate it. So it's a challenge. We know it's a challenge. Got to ask, did anyone see this guy the past 2 weeks? Just a reminder, the advice monster's out there, and the advice monster is just that. It's a guy or gal who's looking to give the advice with the internal bias of, I'm just trying to solve a problem. Here's my bag of hammers. Everything's a nail, and I'm just going to go to work. But the reality is we want to develop solution-based thinkers. And maybe I know I asked the question, I didn't give you time to answer, but I want you just to kind of think about that for a moment. Did anyone see this guy the past 2 weeks? I'm sure he's out there. I deal with this guy all the time, internally, the advice monster. I got the answer. I'd love just to solve it. Even if it just, because I want to speed up my day. I have things I have to do. I just want to get this solved. Anyone have any issues with the advice monster? For those that were on the last call and know what I'm talking about.
I have, particularly when I'm really busy. And I think I mentioned this last time, like when we're slower, I tend to, come on, let's go. You're going to learn this. But when we're really, really busy and I'm getting pulled in every other direction, I do tend to just be like, okay, let's get this done. Let's get this done. Let's get this done. When there's questions coming at me from every direction. And honestly, like just learning how to take that step back when that's happening is such a challenge. Just is an ongoing challenge. So to answer your question, yep. And that ties into the last question as well. I was like, actually, my problem has been with this guy here. He just hasn't gotten there yet.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the honesty on that. For those that weren't on the last call, again, you can go back and watch and review it. For time's sake, we can't totally unpack the advice monster phenomenon, but it's true to everybody at a different level that we have this guy that kind of wants to come up, and it means well. Like, I got just the perfect advice for you. I got the perfect solution. But what we're doing is we're robbing our people of coming to the solution on their own. And really, sometimes it's just an act of laziness, even on our end, where we're driving home an answer to the issue because we kind of need to move on with our days, right? And sometimes the advice isn't even good advice, even though we're not always our own worst, we're not always our own worst critics. Sometimes, we won't tell ourselves that, but the reality is it's not great advice. So awesome. Thank you. All right. So moving on, guys, we talked about 7 of these questions. We talked about 3 of them actually in the 7, again, laid out in the Coaching Habit book. We talked about the kickstart question, the all question, the focus question. Today, we're going to briefly run through the 4 remaining. That's the foundation, lazy, strategic, and learning questions. And again, how you can utilize these. Now, again, like last time, you may come up with your own questions. It's really just to stay curious longer, engage with your people, not always try to find the solution that you're gift wrapping for them. It's allowing them to have some buy-in so they can have some ownership over the solution when it's all said and done. We just want to say less and listen more. So first question, the foundation question, and it's really, what do you want? Right? Foundation, got some Legos there, right? There's a foundation set, but in this case, it's what do you want? And really, how does this play out in your everyday? Well, what do you want? It's an easy to ask, but it's a difficult to answer question. It goes to the heart of the matter, like a surgeon that knows exactly what they need to cut into, how they need to operate in a situation. It goes right to the heart. Another angle with this could be you asking yourself this question: what do I want? Maybe you're wrestling with some stuff. It's part of your own personal development. You say, what do I really want out of this situation? And then even another angle with the foundation question is, what in my heart of hearts do I believe that this person wants? The person you're engaging with, the person you're coaching, what do they want? What would I like to have happen, right? I have an objective. We're trying to run a business. This isn't happening the way it's supposed to. And what do they really want? And then honestly, you can go right for it. You can level up and say, what do you really want here? If what do you want's not cutting it, because that can lend itself to asking somebody who's really confused, what do you want from this situation? What do you want from this job? What do you want from your shift today as a court monitor, right? Maybe you need to go a little bit further and just say, what do you really want here, right now? What do you really want? You want to engage at a higher level? You don't want to work here anymore? Whatever it may be, right? The foundation question closes that gap. It gets to the heart of the matter. Any questions about the foundation question? Beautiful. So moving on, the lazy question. Yes, we're talking about you. But really, how can I help? That's the question. How can I help? Now, funny enough, it doesn't sound like a lazy question because you're actually invoking, how can I help? Which means you're putting yourself to work. But it couldn't be further from the truth, because really the lazy question, how can I help, does a lot of things for you, yes, but it does more for those that you're coaching. And it looks like this. How can I help? It actually reveals what the person wants our role to be. So whether they want you to be a listener, a supporter, an encourager in the situation, maybe they need more tools from you. Maybe they need more of your time. Maybe they just need the support, like I said, right? Supporter. But it actually reveals something about really how they're looking at you and the situation. Helps them articulate the issue, the clarifying action that they expect from you as well as the one who's coaching them. And then actually, if you want to go right for it, kind of cut through the fluff, you can simply ask, what do you want from me? I've actually done that before with those I lead. What do you want from me? Or what do you need from me, right? I don't say, what do you want from me? But what do you need from me? How can I help you? Right? And then here's the brilliant thing about it. You don't have to say yes. You don't actually have to say yes to any of it. It allows you the time, the presence in the moment to actually make a different decision. You can counter and say, well, I am willing to do this and that, but I'm not willing to do whatever other thing is, right? you can actually have a conversation around it, which is great, right? This is what you need. This is what I'm willing to give. So it's a beautiful thing. Again, let's not lose sight of things we've talked about in previous discussions, like boundaries, sphere of influence, sphere of authority. It's not just them running roughshod over you, but it is about seeing what they need, how you can help, and then going from there. So the next question is the strategic question. Yes, no, maybe so. Really, if you're saying yes to this is really on the back end of there's a solution occurring here, right? Or some version of a solution from the coaching moment that you're having with them. What are they saying no to? I really like this question, by the way, for a number of reasons. One of the biggest reasons, because it's about courage. It's about making the bold choice. When you say yes to one thing, you're going to say no to something else. That goes into opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is really hard to gauge in the workplace because honestly, you may spend your whole morning thinking, I'm really getting work done because you've answered a million emails. But in reality, if you weighed it out against some other things you could be doing, you may not be actually getting much value from what you had to do, which was check emails, yes, but you're confusing that for getting certain work done, at least of the higher sort, the great work. Looking at opportunity costs, very simply, is having $5 and saying, I'm spending it on that coffee and something else at Starbucks. You don't have that $5 anymore. There you go. You can't spend it anywhere else. And you only have so much time, right? Just like you only have so many resources in the way of money. So the reality is we only have so much time. And often we need to recognize, how do we sacrifice doing good work or the good work we're doing to say yes to the great work in our everyday, to say yes to that coaching that needs to happen when we're stewarding something within somebody. And it says, well, it takes 50 hours to get a really good assistant manager. And I'm working with this person. And it's taking even longer than that. I just threw a number out there. I know it's not 50 hours, but it takes longer than that. It might take shorter than that. But you have to be willing to say, I'm sacrificing the good work to say yes to the great work. And here's a word of caution for many of us on the line here. If you say yes all the time, which many of us do to many things, it's why you feel the way you currently do. So learn how to say no, weigh out the opportunity costs, and as you're coaching, get them to recognize, what are they saying yes to? And by doing that, what are they saying no to? I think that's an important one too. Any questions thus far? Wonderful. Bringing up the rear, guys, the learning question. And it's really, what was most useful for you in that coaching moment? What was most useful for you in the context of our discussion? And this ties well with the kickstart question, which for those that remember, it's what's on your mind. It's a great way to kick off the questioning, kick off the coaching. It's why it's the kickstart. What's on your mind? Well, what was most useful for you is a great tie-up. It allows the learning process to take hold. A move to action can begin from this working place of finding what was most useful for them in the conversation. It takes a person out of concept, just ways of thinking, being in that 83% of knowing but not doing, into the 5% of practice, doing. And then often it leads to a solution that they had a hand in. Again, we're cultivating solution-based thinkers. We're allowing them to have some ownership over their own solution, which is awesome. We're trying to create something here. We just don't want people just doing everything we ask. We might think that's what we want, but really we want people who can think for themselves. They can come up with solutions and really be part of a growing team. And so that's the 4 left questions we had to go over. And so I'm just going to kind of throw this out there. And I think I'm going to go with Stephanie because we started this 2 weeks ago. Stephanie, Hannah, you both had answered and Hannah's not on the line. So Stephanie, I'm just going to kind of put you out there again. I appreciate you being my guinea pig here. But what do you want from coaching? If we were to kind of use the questions that we had from last time and kind of go off that, what do you want from coaching ultimately?
I want to see the fruit of my efforts, like actually come into fruition. I want to see, that's like my heart to this. Like, I want to see what I'm putting in actually cultivated in my park. And I wanted, and so, yeah, that's my ultimate answer for that. So taking these steps here, and actually, especially this last one, are you going to be asking a lot more questions before I go on this little thing?
We're going to ask the other 3 questions that remain. So yeah, pace yourself.
Okay.
I appreciate it. It's a good question. And that can happen in the coaching. That's okay. So this is coaching right here, right? What do you want from coaching? I just happen to be asking you about coaching, but what do you want from court monitoring? What do you want from this job? What do you want from this situation where you're not getting along with your coworker? What do you want from me in this moment? How can I support you, right? You see where it's heading? So what do you want from coaching? There's a need, there's a want from you for that. So the next question is, how can I help you? How can I help?
That's a fantastic question. I honestly don't know right this second. At this point, outside of this here, I'm looking at what we have in front of us. And I mean, this is tremendously helpful, this teaching today.
I might have an answer.
Go for it.
To that question. Because we did it in Shelby when I was there. Train the trainer. That was a very good exercise that we did when you were there, Lance. And some of my leads got a lot better. Some of them not so much, but
yeah. Rising waters. What is it? Rising waters cause all ships to. Well, what's the expression? Anybody know it? The rising sea levels or something cause all boats to come up. Is that the expression? It sounds better than that, but that's the idea, right?
Right.
Sometimes it drowns others too, by the way. But yeah, interesting enough. Thank you for that share. I almost forgot we did that. The train the trainer with court monitoring. Yeah. And I love doing that session too. I love doing that. So cool. Good. That's awesome. Does that jive, Stephanie? That sort of thing?
That is actually quite awesome. And thank you for bringing that up, Cody.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
Always here to chime in a little bit, you know.
You're the
Go
best.
for a lot of it. Go for a lot of it. Excellent. Very good. So again, how can I help? And that's what you would ask somebody, right? How can I help? And the beauty of it, lazy question as it may be, allows you to say no. It allows you to change it up. Well, you want me to do X, Y, and Z, but I'm really not willing to do X and Y. I'll do Z, right? You get the gist. Next question. Open question for anybody. So Cody, you can jump right back in, or Stephanie, right? We started with you. If you're saying yes to this in the way of coaching, we'll keep the context coaching. What are you saying no to? Think about your day. I'm going to say yes to doing what Lance says, right? Not because Lance is this authoritative jerk or something, but the reality is I'm asking something of you for you to grow, for you to grow as a leader. So you got to practice. You got to work your muscles. So if I'm saying yes to coaching and doing what Lance is asking me to do 2, 3, 5 times a week, whatever it may be, what am I saying no to? Because you're going to be saying no to something. You only got so much time. You can answer that. Yeah, I'm going to coach more, but it's going to look like something. You're going to be saying no to something. What is it?
I don't know. I'm here pretty much every day, so I got time to do both. I got time to do everything. So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, you may find you don't want to be there every day trying to do that, right? Don't let the tail wag the dog. I'm not saying yay or nay. You do you.
I'm okay with being here every day.
There you go. Fair enough. But if you weren't, right?
Right.
So you'd have to make some decisions.
Yeah.
And again, I love that you're in a position to say, I'm happy to be here every day. Great. Awesome. Very cool.
Well, not every day. I'm not here every day. I got 2 days off a week, but
no, every day. I heard it. You all heard it. We're recording this every day.
You had a conversation with Patrick already about it. If if I can be here 60 hours a week, I'll do it.
61 then. All right. Sounds good. No, I appreciate you, Cody, and thank you for the share. So yeah, bringing in the real, if you're saying yes to one thing, you're saying no to something else. Often that's just due to time. You're bound by time. You can only do so much. You said yes to this call, but you said no to something else as a result of it. Sometimes it's something you had to delegate. But these are things that we need to ask ourselves, and we're going to ask of our team. And then last, the learning question kind of brings it all the way around. What was most useful for you? And I will come back to you, Stephanie. and then maybe somebody else as well. What was most useful for you, even in this time together? Because we're doing the coaching right now live. What's been most useful for you between this call and the last call?
Particularly this call, if you're saying yes to something, you're saying no to something else, like that really struck me in a way that, sorry, the shenanigans happening behind me. That really struck me in a way that I'm like, what am I saying yes to? What am I saying no to? And then when you said, if you continue saying yes to whatever you're saying no to now, you're going to continue feeling like you do right now. And I'm like, man, I'm absolutely worn out right now. And I feel that way every single Monday, just beat down. So there's changes to be made. There's more changes to be made. And that goes right down to not being that yes person, not being, it goes down to coaching the team to a deeper degree so that I don't feel like I have to have all the answers. Even when I'm home.
Advice monster. That advice monster. He likes to creep. What a creep. Creeping around. Yeah. No, it's good. It's a good recognition that could change your whole trajectory as to how you lead, right? Because you can only give from what you have. And if you're running on empty, you have nothing to give to anyone else. It's not a good situation to be in. So I appreciate the vulnerability and really the honesty there. And I think many probably feel that way. Business moves fast. There's always something we're wrestling down. It can be challenging, especially as a leader, right? Sort of the burden of leading is, well, it's one of many things, but that's kind of one of the burdens. I lie awake at night for a number of reasons. Sometimes it's due to injuries. Sometimes it's due to staffing. It could be for a number of reasons. And I even have to set those boundaries as well. Excellent. Anyone else? Anybody else want to take a stab at what was most useful for you between both calls, really, if you're on both, or just this call, if this is your first call for this? What was most useful for you?
Hey, Lance.
Yeah, James.
So you like that screen about the lazy question about saying like, how can I help you? Is that are you saying like that's not something we should be asking, or that is the wrong question to be asking when you preface it as the lazy question?
No, that's a great point. That's a great point. And really the author of the book, he kind of positions it that way. And he was, I watched something where he was asked that exact same question you're asking me. So I have like the textbook answer for you. It's a question that kind of flies in the face. The irony of it is we want them to, kind of come into their own solution and have some ownership over it. And then we're asking, well, how can I help you? Well, it's a supportive conversation. It's a supportive piece of the puzzle. We're not here absolving ourselves as leaders from responsibility. We're not saying, well, can't help you. Good luck. You're on an island. It's
Right.
the lazy question because from the onset, it's like, well, how can I help you? And if we allow it to be a runaway train, they will throw it all on us and say, well, you could do all of this. Where it's not lazy is our engagement to say, well, no, I'm willing to do certain things. And it helps illuminate the problem and really what role they play as the person with the problem into finding a solution.
Yeah.
Does that make more sense?
I think so. I mean, I find that when I'm faced with some kind of, when somebody does need help, I often rush into this state of presuming what the problem is or what they've already tried to, rectify that, to do what have they done themselves? And if you rush in thinking, they clearly need help with this, when actually maybe they've already tried that, then you're probably not doing them any favors by coming in, and maybe you're like starting to undermine them in that way. So I often find that how can I help you gets the best answer toward, well, what is the problem? And also what have you done about it thus far? So then where do I need to pick up and jump in? Yeah,
that's a great way to look at it. And for the matter, how can I help? We have 7 questions here. There's obviously, way more questions than that. We talk about in this group, we've talked about what questions work for you. I have certain go-tos when I coach. I know Cody had shared some last call as well. Some were the same. No surprises there. But these are not necessarily in order. I mean, the kickstart is kind of the kickstart. This being lazy question, I don't know if it's, you know, question number 4 or 5 or whatever it may be. Doesn't have to be in that order. You know, I don't know if I said that on this call. I said it last call, but it doesn't have to be in that order. You don't have to get all 7 questions. Again, you may only get 1 of those questions or 2 of those questions. You might find, hey, this is the perfect question. How can I help is perfect for 9 out of 10 situations. Cool. You may find that's not the best one, because given how you relate to the individual, you may find when you say, how can I help, that they say, well, here is all of my stuff. I'll set it on your desk. Goodbye. See you later.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll go, well, that's not what I necessarily meant. So you have to do it in the context of the relationship and how you know them, especially when you're working with your system managers. You know how to flex, right? You flex your style. I think it's important to have it in the context and see it in the context of how you relate to the person. Does that help?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Absolutely. I was going to ask you, how can I help? But it seems like I did. So there you go. And it felt really lazy when I said it. So how can I help? No, that's a wonderful way to go about it. And I can appreciate you're going to the heart of it. That's another way to go to the heart. When I say, how can I help? To me, a lot of symptoms are going to pop up. And sometimes the symptoms are this disease here, and sometimes the symptoms are something much more minor, right? But what we don't want to do, and I didn't clarify this on this call, and I know you weren't on last call, so I'll just reference this. What we don't want to do is just jump in going, oh, these are all the symptoms. This is the issue. Versus, I'm going to pry a little bit further. Not in a bad way. I'm going to ask a couple other questions to get to the heart of the matter. Because although we have all these issues that seem systemic of this greater disease, right? This greater issue, you may find that what you're assuming to be the case is not the case at all. And all we have to do is listen a little bit more. Let things, you know, hang a little bit longer. So, yeah, awesome. Thank you for that question. And hopefully that helped others. Did that help anybody else? Awesome. Cool, cool, cool. Very good, very good. So I gotta ask, as we kind of wrap up our time together, what question do you think you might use? What might you use now that the 7 questions, and I'll put them back up, are kind of in front of us? Is there a question or 2 on here you go, I'm definitely using that? That's something I'm going to grab hold of as I coach people in the next couple of weeks. When we get back in front of each other, I'm going to have you some of these questions. Any of them really stick out to you?
Mine is, what do you want? Because most of the time the kids, when they come in the office, I don't know why they always like to talk to me, but they'd rather talk to me than actually tell me what they want me to do or me to help with. They just want to talk. So what do you want would be the question for me.
That's good. What they want is they want to socialize with you because they like you, Cody. Don't you know? Right? Yeah. What do you want? Obviously, you're not going to take that tone, but yeah, what do you want? What do you need? Absolutely. What other ones?
I think specifically with Milwaukee, just some of the guests that come in are rather frustrating. Obviously being like teenagers and not listening, and then having the employees at our park who are still also teenagers. Since I think we have a really young team. And then those guests not listening to them. I think it kind of sets off my employees just a little bit, just solely because the kids that do come in are the relatively the same age as our employees, because we have 14 and 15-year-olds working at Milwaukee. And I think the first question, the kickstart question, what's on your mind? Kind of like Cody said, they come into the office and I can tell that they're not in a good mood or they're frustrated or anything because their head is down and they're silent. Whereas usually they're pretty bubbly and, you know, always saying hello to all the managers and everything. But I can tell as soon as they come into the office and they're frustrated, I can always use that what's on your mind just to kind of talk to them and, you know, ease the situation a little bit better too.
Yeah, great share. And just for the record, I won't have everyone show hands. Well, maybe I will. How many others out there have 14 and 15-year-olds working for you? Raise your hand.
I think everybody should have their hand raised because
You're in good company. You're in good
Yeah,
company,
right.
actually. That wasn't a pick on. That's just I'm not picking on you. I was picking you for that question, and actually, you spoke up, but yeah, it's challenging. So, but you're in good company. Everybody's dealing with that. It's a challenge. Often they're having to court monitor in the case of court monitoring. I know I don't mean to ostracize my Slick City guy on the call here, but what do you guys call it? You guys don't call them court monitors. What do you guys call them?
Or action monitors.
Woo! Action
Mhm.
Jackson. Action
Mhm.
Jackson. I like it. So yeah, the same idea though, right? They are often having to monitor, manage, hold ground to those that would be in everyday life their peers, right? Of same age. So it can be very challenging. I loved, Ashley, that you would go for what's on your mind. I think that's great. Go back if you can to the last time we were actually together, talked about that question in particular. Because it's the key thing with that question when you say what's on your mind, it's not what's everything that's on your mind, what's anything that's on your mind. That can become sort of a time waster. It can really become something where you're wrestling with a million and one things that because they have a lot of things on their mind. But as a kickstart question, it's awesome. What's on your mind? And then you can kind of narrow that down by grabbing another question or two from this list or a question that you like to use. That's maybe not on here, which is fine. Totally fine. But yeah, we're all wrestling the same challenges for sure. You're keeping good company on here. All right. So with that being said, great segue. What question do you think you might use? I asked that, but what great questions do you have? What question, maybe it wasn't on this list. That's fine. But do you have go-to questions that we could benefit from when you're coaching? What great questions do you have that you use in your park for your 14, 15, 16-year-olds, right? What do you use? Cody, you had one last time, right? I think it's the same one I use.
oh yeah, I do. Yeah, I remember now. I was trying to think back on the call because I know I had it. What would you do in this situation if I wasn't here? Is the question I use a lot. Because to be honest, I mean, we have the onboarding booklet that you guys made, which is awesome, by the way. We have that for a reason. We have along with that, we have those training sheets that are in there. So I believe that if we train them the right way they're supposed to, and a manager's up there, you don't just hand them off to like a team member or anything. The training that we give them, I think it's a very good training. So I just trust them that if I wasn't here, what would you do? Whether it be a team member, a lead, another manager, what would you do if I wasn't here?
Awesome. Yeah. And we both use that one, you and I do. So yeah, what would you do? Yeah. Or I like when someone says, well, I don't know, come back with, well, what if you did know? Right? You put it right back on them. What would you do if you did know? Almost always they'll have something for you. May not be the greatest answer, but they'll have something, and they're part of owning the solution.
I mean, most of the time, the problems and questions they have, they've asked a million times in the past, and you've answered the question for them a million times, but they just, for some reason, they always like to come to you and ask the question again and again. But if you answer
We lost Cody. Cody fell off. Anybody else hear Cody? No. Yeah. All right. Well, we lost Cody. That's because a team member came in and he turned around and said, what do you want? What do you need? What do you want? All right. Good deal. Well, maybe he'll jump back on. Must have a bad connection. And if he does, we'll let him finish.
a million times, and at some point, you got to be like, hey, what would you do if I wasn't here? Because
absolutely. We're losing you again, Cody. All right. He might jump back on. I love the Slick City in the background too, by the way, James. Looks great.
Yeah, I just wondered if people knew who I was. So I thought I should.
Oh, we know who you are. We know who you are.
Yeah, most of us.
For sure.
Like,
for sure.
It's like a badge of honor. Like, it's like, I don't know. There's something about it. It's got a bit of pride to it.
The first guy at bat, the first one leading up the first. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
I can't say the anymore though, so thanks, Brett. But that's fine.
That Brett. We're expanding. We're growing. It's good not
Right.
to be on an island any longer, right? Now you can have the same woes and talk through it, right? Hey, this isn't working for me. Is it working for you? As you figure it out as you go, right? So some of that could be good. Some of that can be good for sure. Awesome. Any other questions that you have out there? Anybody use a good question? You're willing to share it? Just to break the ice. Well, what do you say with your teams when you're coaching? When I do, when I come up to, I'll use the word courts, the attractions area, and I'm looking to coach, I may say, what's going on with this area right now? What's not right? I use that one a lot, actually. Puts them on their heels a little bit. It was a little bit different when I was a GM back in the day. But even at this role, if I say, something's wrong with your court, what is it? Can you help me here? Often it gets them looking that much deeper into the situation, and they will often come up out of it with a solution. And then when they say, oh, well, you got two people over in whatever, trampoline, I may say then, so what are you going to do about that? These are all great questions. Not trying to intimidate, just trying to get them to be involved in the solution. Any other questions, guys? Any other questions in general from this call or the last call for that matter?
I think back in the day, a statement you used to make that I picked up on was, come at me with a solution, not a problem. And that's something that I've actually integrated into when I do orientation and even into the team meetings and such. Like, come at me with a solution. What have you thought through? What have you already, what little ideas? You don't know, what would you have done, which you've already said. But that particular statement has always just resonated with me.
Yeah, I'll jump
Awesome.
on that. I do a similar kind of thing, and it's often I feel like for me, I'm often seen as the problem solver or the sole problem solver. So when people come with a problem, my response might be, okay, so what are we doing about that? Or what's the answer? So they're not just leaving it up to me to, and constantly find the way forward. That's not, I have people to take part of that responsibility too.
Yeah, absolutely. Some years ago, I was at a location managing, and I had an older gentleman come up to me. He had been managing for 56 years. He was at that point retired, and said, "Oh, you must be the manager here." And for whatever reason, that's how he started talking with me. And I remember him saying, "Yeah, I remember I managed for many, many years. Managing is just problem solving all day long. You just solve problems. That's all you do all day long." And I said, yeah, some days it feels like that, right? But having people join in on the problem solve, and thank you for the share, James, spot on. It can feel really good to be a hero for a moment, swoop in, save the day, cape and all. And then there comes a point, and it's not very long after you've been doing the hero thing for a little while, that you go, it's kind of exhausting always being the guy saving the day. And leave it for when you could truly be the hero. But it's really nice when your people are the heroes too, when they're the ones coming up with the solutions. And to kind of piggyback off what Stephanie said, yeah, that's a great way to pose the question. And I'm not saying it's great because I said it. I'm sure I heard it from somewhere at some point. But cultivating that solution-based thinking, it's not so much like, what solution are you going to bring to the conversation? It doesn't have to be the solution, but bring something other than just trying to find trouble. Troubleshooting's really easy. I used to say it all the time. When my kids were like 3, 4, and 5, and they were jumping at Sky Zone, they could point out things that were wrong very easily. It doesn't take much, and that's not discrediting my 3, 4, and 5-year-olds at the time. But the reality is it's easy to point out trouble, point out issues. It's a lot harder. It takes a little bit more effort, or even a lot more effort, to cite solutions. Even if it's not the solution, at least you're involving them in that. And I think that's really important. All right, anything else to add, guys? Anything else to add? You guys are too good. Too easy. Too easy. All right, so I'm going to ask the question. Put it in the chat. You have two right now in your head. You can just private message me if you want. That's fine too. Who will you decide to coach over the next 2 weeks? Think 2, in 2 weeks. That's one a week. That's nothing. That's little. It's little coaching, but it's something where you're intentional. Who will you decide to coach over the next 2 weeks? Put it in the chat, please. You have somebody you're thinking of. If a face came to mind, just go with it. Somebody came to mind just now. Hopefully 2 people did. 2 people, 2 weeks. Who are you coaching? And by the way, I won't vocalize this out loud because if you're sharing it just with me, that would make it awkward. Stephanie's going to coach me. Thanks, Stephanie. Appreciate that a whole lot. You can coach me. Hold me accountable. It's a good thing. She didn't put that, by the way. Where's Aaron? I saw Aaron, Stephanie. Did I not see Aaron? There's Aaron. I know who I'm coaching next time. Starts with A and ends with Aaron.
Top of the morning to you, fella.
Thank you.
It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon here. I know who I'm coaching. All right. Who will you decide to coach over the next 2 weeks? If you don't have it, please put it down. You know there's somebody that came to mind. Don't rationalize it away. Go with it. Share it with me. Just from accountability, share it with me so I can maybe follow up with you later on. Awesome. And so time for action, 5% steps. Wrap up with this, guys. Intentionally coach 2 people in the next 2 weeks. That's a personal week. That's next to no one, right? Well, it's not no one, but that's easy. We can do that. Come to the call next call ready to share your 2 coaching sessions. Please add your voice and then come to the next call with the worksheet fully filled out. What worksheet? I don't fully have it done. My apologies. It was ready to be published and sent over to you. A couple little odds and ends I wanted to add to it. Not a big issue. I'll send that over here today. And that way you have that worksheet to work with between now and next call. All right. Excellent, everyone. Any other questions? Are we good to go? Shannon, I don't see your smile. It's so sad. No smile from Shannon.
I'm sick.
I can tell. I just thought you liked wearing the mask. No one likes wearing the mask, but you do. And you are. Appreciate that. And I can see you're smiling with your eyebrows. My oldest, he smiles with his eyes. You can cover his whole face and he's smiling. You can see it. It lights up a room, just the top half of his face. He smiles with his eyes, as I say. All right. Excellent. Well, thank you, everyone. You've got nothing else for me. Smaller call as far as participants, but no less important. Appreciate you guys taking the time to own your own development. If you need anything at all, please reach out. Never fret to do that. Take care. Thank you, guys, and have a great day. Have a great week.
Thanks, Lance.
Good.
Bye.
Thank you,
Thank
James.
you.
Pleasure having you.
Talk soon. Bye.
Talk soon.